I'd like to go over a few items so that you know how to participate in today's event. There's a screenshot of an example of today's attendee interface.
Oh, everybody has
You should see something that looks like this on your own computer desktop. In the upper right-hand corner, you're listening to us using your computer speaker system by default. If you'd like to join us over the phone, just select telephone in the audio pane and the dial-in information will be displayed. And although you will be in listen-only mode throughout the presentation, you will have the opportunity to submit text questions by typing into the question pane of the control panel, and I will collect these and address them during the Q&A session at the end of the presentation. We are recording this presentation, and it will be made available to you shortly afterwards with the link. And of course, if you're joining us today on Twitter, we encourage you to tweet on hashtag LATMG Digital.
What was it?
So on behalf of your local Orange County sales team, we would like to express our sincere appreciation for this opportunity to create a digitally focused marketing webinar series in partnership with the local chambers. I would like to recognize the hard work of the chamber teams, including the Costa Mesa Chamber, South Coast Metro Alliance, Huntington Beach Chamber, Brea Chamber of Commerce, Laguna Beach Chamber, Newport Beach Chamber, and the Orange County Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Again, thank you. As part of our continuing efforts to be the most relevant force shaping digital advertising in Southern California, the Los Angeles Times Media Group offers our advertisers and chamber members access to the largest audience reach in Orange County, all of Southern California, and nationally with digital services to help small, mid-size, and enterprise-wide businesses get the word out. I'd like to introduce you to our keynote speaker today, Anthony Judah. So Anthony has been working in the digital space for 3 years now as a strategist and has consulted for many clients in the Southern California, Chicago, South Florida, and Baltimore areas. He also spent time as a high school teacher before becoming a marketer, which makes him uniquely qualified to lead a training such as this. So let me go ahead and turn this over to Anthony. Anthony, are you on the line?
I'm here. Did you pass the control back over to me? It looks like I don't have it yet. There we go. Fantastic. So thanks, Ray. I appreciate the introduction and the opportunity to speak to this fine group of people. I first wanted to apologize for if I sound stuffy and getting over a cold. I promise I don't sound like Ben Stein all the time. So social media is kind of a mystery to not only business owners but also to a significant amount of marketers. It's pretty clear that there's a significant audience on these platforms, but it's not always clear how to reach them most effectively and besides that, how to measure the investment that you make to reach them. So during the next few minutes, we hope to kind of demystify parts of this world for you so that you can make well-informed decisions on where to invest your time and your money. So let's get rolling. So first, I feel like it's important before we start talking about social media to define really what is social media, because it is sort of an very vague term that gets overused, I think. So a professor at Cambridge did a study on social media and really called it a piece of technology that's used to publish and access information, collaborate on a common effort, or build relationships. And as we move forward, it'll be important to remember these three parts and kind of how the common thread is between all of the different platforms. So I think now that we have social media defined, it's important to give just a very brief history of social media to see where we've come from to really know where we're going. So people think of social media as something that is a more recent phenomenon, but really, if you go off of the definition we spoke about earlier, social media is a fairly old, in terms of the internet, concept. And they really started with bulletin board systems, or BBS systems. So these were old message boards that were pertaining to one particular topic, and this started back in the early 80s. So you might have a board that talks about the Green Bay Packers, or recipes, or anything like that. And people would go on and post messages and connect with people over what seems to us like a very archaic interface, but was really advanced for its time. So again, people in a network connecting, talking about, and sharing common interests. And then we moved into the 90s, where it's really started to, the internet started to become a little bit more ubiquitous. And you have 6 Degrees, which was the first social media, or the first platform that used people's real names to make connections. So this was important because, as opposed to the BBS systems where you were using a username and it was very much anonymous, this was people trying to reconnect with people they might have lost touch with, and it kind of was the precursor to what we now really know as social media with Facebook. And also around the same time, Classmates.com, again, very similar concept, trying to reconnect with people you might have lost touch with, and keep in touch that way, and it was all using the internet and using your real names. Moving on to the 2000s is really when social media began to explode and become really what it is today. So we have Friendster, which really isn't around anymore, LinkedIn, MySpace, which MySpace was the first social media platform to really have a extremely massive reach. And I thought it was interesting that LinkedIn came out before MySpace, which before I was doing my research, I didn't know that LinkedIn was that old. But shortly after MySpace came out is when Facebook shot up and came onto the scene. And obviously, it's the monster of social media right now. And kind of shortly after that, Twitter happened. And between Facebook and Twitter is where people started to look at social media like, oh, this is actually a thing. This is something that's going to stick around, and possibly we can make money from it. So and that has sort of supported the growth of social media as we know it today. And I noted a few other networks on the side there, which I personally don't really define as a social media network, but some other people do. So YouTube, Reddit, and Tumblr all came about at this same time. And what you'll notice from these networks, as well as the ones that we looked at previously, is they were all very much text-based, except for YouTube. And that was primarily a limitation of bandwidth and the type of technologies that we had that were supporting the internet at the time. But as we move into the 2010s, you can see that things start to get more increasingly visual. Pinterest and Instagram obviously are very visual. And then as smartphone technology got better and more advanced, we have you have Snapchat and Vine, and more recently, just as recently as this year, we have Periscope and Meerkat, which, if you're not familiar, they're apps where you can live stream to the internet from your smartphone anything that you're currently seeing. So it's gone from being, something that you would check once a week because the internet was so slow to something that is completely instant and you can see what's happening right now. And so this, I think, sort of illustrates the journey that we've gone on from the 80s to now, having such an archaic, very one-way interface to having where you can essentially have a video of your cat live stream from your phone, and anybody can watch if they're interested. So I think that's a good overview of where we've been come from, and where we're going to. And so from here, social media, you can see that it can be kind of confusing. So, I know a lot about Facebook because I use it, but I don't really know where should I invest my time. And so social media marketing really has kind of become a choose your own adventure book. Where do you want to spend your time in terms of posting? What should I be creating content for? So I'm going to go over a couple of the advantages to each network so that you can choose what's right for your business. And I think that the first thing to really understand is that not every social media platform is right for every business. So I think that this is a brilliant piece of work that I use a lot when I'm trying to talk about the differences between the different networks. So Facebook, I like golf. Twitter, I'm playing golf currently. LinkedIn, my skills include golfing. Instagram, here's an artistic photo of a golf ball. So you can see that even though they're all social media networks, the way that you speak about a topic is a little bit different. So if you are a donut shop or a cupcake shop, Instagram and Pinterest are perfect for you because they're highly visual. They make me want to buy your product. But if you are a GI doctor, you probably don't want to use an Instagram because most people don't want to see that. So again, I'm going to go over how should you use the top social media networks, and what are the advantages and disadvantages. So Facebook is kind of the one that everybody can use because it's the most popular platform, has the most amount of users. If you're thinking about getting into social media, get your Facebook perfect first before you try to do Snapchat or anything else. So it's the most popular. It is a brand hub, so what I mean by that is it's a place for people to be able to talk about you and talk to you. So a website is kind of a one-way communication. You have a message that you're trying to get out and people consume it. But with a Facebook page, really talk back and forth with your community and get the vibe of what they're feeling about you and really communicate with them on a more personal level. And Facebook is all about sharing content, and mostly that content is going to be long form. So what I mean by long form is you have quizzes or longer articles or longer videos, things that are going to go viral and have a bit deeper of a connection with your brand. And Facebook, you've probably noticed on your own pages, is becoming increasingly visual. So no longer is it acceptable for a business to just post a text-based post that says, come and visit our store, we have great specials. Nobody's going to read that. It's not. It's going to get lost in kind of the noise of the rest of a Facebook feed. And the great thing about Facebook, especially for advertisers, is it really does have the most amount of personal information. So it's kind of controversial for a lot of different circles, but as a business owner and as somebody who's trying to reach an audience, the more personal information that you can get about the users, the better. And like I said, it's good for basically every kind of business. So let's look at a couple of different Facebook posts and why they're good. So again, you'll notice that there are two different posts here, and they're both highly visual. And when you're scrolling through your feed, these are the sort of things that will get you to stop and look. And the text that's associated with them is kind of secondary. If it's sort of the thing that's going to get you to click once you've already noticed it. So for me, the phone that's on the right here is something that I was in the market for, and I got targeted a promoted post for a new phone. And it's a review. It's a longer form. It's probably a 10-minute review video, but again, relevant to my personal interests and highly visual to get me to look at it, and then has engaging content to go with it. And then on the left here is something, again, highly visual and relevant to where I am, being in Southern California. I would love to know why we call the freeways and things like that. So really good stuff, and I'll kind of go over later what a bad post looks like. So Twitter is sort of a complete opposite, and it's evolving to be the complete opposite of Facebook. Whereas Facebook, your posts will live for a long time and they'll start to get traction even a few days after you post them. With Twitter, as soon as you post things, it's out of date, and the posts are fleeting and absolutely disposable. So if you're trying to have a message really get out there and stick, Twitter is probably not the best place for you. However, it is a great place to post news and breaking information. So we hear a lot in the news that things are breaking on Twitter before they're going on the AP wire. So it is a great place to get immediate information. And if you're going to be sharing content and links, it all has to be short form. So because of the kind of ADD nature of the Twitter user. And again, very much similar to Facebook, it is becoming increasingly visual. So as you scroll through, you're going to start seeing pictures and screenshots and things to get people to try to linger a little bit longer on that post. And the only problem with Twitter is that there isn't as much personal information as there is on Facebook. So you really are relying on the person's following habits. So we know that they follow HP, so maybe we should target them and an ad for a computer or something like that, but it's not as granular as Facebook. So who is Twitter good for? It's really good for businesses who really do need to keep in constant contact with their customers. So I'll give you a few examples of who that would be. So here are two screenshots that I've taken from my personal Twitter feed. Search Engine Land is a news site that has to do with digital marketing, and they just push out news constantly. So Bing launched their mobile-friendly testing tool. Fantastic. I now know what the article is about, and I can click through if I want to read, but I get the gist of it. But then even a brand who's trying to promote their Black Friday, they have an image up here that just says "Shop with a Buddy, Best Buy," and you have now seen their brand and that they have a Black Friday thing going on. So if you want to learn more, you can click, but their message has been given to you, and you can keep on scrolling and they don't care. So again, quick hit, don't try to make them linger for too long, get your message out and move on. And Instagram has been called sort of the Twitter of pictures, where again the posts are very fleeting and disposable, but the audience is looking for different things. So it's less of a news outlet and less of a information outlet, and more of an artistic and visual venture. So it's a great place to get photos of friends or inspiration for travel and fitness and things like that. So if you're going to be on Instagram and you want to try to sell your product, the sell has to be a little bit softer and not as in your face, comes view our specials. It's great for sharing pictures and video. So again, it's very short form, and we're getting, as we move into this more visual space. We're becoming more and more ADD, so get your message across again, very similar to Twitter, and move on. And there's, again, not a whole lot of personal information on Instagram to be able to target them, to target your users, but it is getting better, especially now that Instagram and Facebook are in the same family, so we might be getting more information in the future. And it's really great for businesses who are highly visual, so like your travel companies, photographers, and fitness and fashion brands, anyone who, if you have a problem telling your story on Facebook or Twitter, and because it's so visual, Instagram is a perfect platform for you. And these are a few examples of really effective Instagram posts. So recently Ford partnered with a few other Instagram users, some very popular ones, to get people to hashtag Ford dogs on pictures of them going out and doing things with their dogs and using Ford vehicles. And they actually gave away an F-150 for the best post. So it was highly integrated with the community and using different influencers, and it was a very, very effective campaign and had a lot of really good reach. Moving on to Pinterest, I think that in my research of Pinterest, I discovered that it is an extremely good place to put a lot of effort into if your business is right for the platform. Mostly because the posts and the work that you put into Pinterest has an extremely long shelf life. So the posts are archived and visited many, many times. So you might pin a recipe and you visit it, twice a month for years. So if you are a brand and you happen to have a really good recipe for cupcakes, then you're getting a lot of brand impressions and exposure over and over again because they're going back and reading about your cupcake recipe. So if you're not familiar with Pinterest, it is a really good place to get inspiration for recipes and do-it-yourself things and things like that. And it is the demographic skews mostly women, and it is, again, very, very visual. And because you're constantly going on to Pinterest and saying, oh, these are the things that I like, and here's what I want to read more about, there's a lot of really good personal information and a lot of good information about buying habits. So you can tell that if somebody is pinning things that are like candles and decorations and things like that, you may have somebody who's interested in getting married. So you can target them that way. So there's a lot of really good personal information. And again, it's like Instagram, it's very good for businesses who are highly visual but really have something useful to share. So again, you're not going to be going out and promoting a sale. You want to sort of give away a little bit of your business secret there if you can. So I have a client who is they sell brownies, and they had a recipe for one of their brownie flavors on there, and it's gotten a lot of likes, a lot of interaction, but they're not completely giving away everything. So this is a sort of a visual assault a little bit, but it's an example of, I took a screenshot of my Pinterest feed, and you can see that there are some screenshots that are a little bit better than others. There are some posts that are better than others. So the Death by Chocolate Paleo Blender brownies, I want them right now. And you also have there are some that, like I said, there are some that are better than others to get me to want to click and interact. So now that we have an audience, how do we really find out who we want, and how do we keep them around? So the first part of having a good audience is having good posts. So what does a good post versus a bad post look like? So on the left here we have a post by OxiClean, and it was around tax time. And OxiClean, if you're not familiar, is a detergent company, but they're posting things about filing your taxes. Now, I know that I don't think of taxes when I think of OxiClean, so this was a little bit of a jarring thing. So staying on brand message is really something that's important if you want to keep your audience engaged and liking your content. On the other hand, we have Mercedes-Benz, who obviously it may be arguably a better product, but it's also, excuse me, it's also a great post for them because it's highly visual and it's a tour of their new car. It makes me want to learn more, see more, and stay on the content a little bit longer and interact with their brand more. So moving on from that, what are some of the rules you should follow when you're posting on social media? And I like to tell my clients to follow the 3 C's. Content, meaning post really high quality, unique, and shareable content. We want things that are going to really touch your users and speak to what they want. And high quality meaning if you can help it, don't take pictures from your phone. If you have a low quality phone, make sure that you're posting your own content and that you're not stealing other people's content, and make it so that it has things that you want people to say and share. Consistently, make sure you're posting consistently. So don't post 15 to 30 times in August and then completely forget about September. You need to stay top of mind with your audience and really make sure that they're engaging with your posts. And continuity, much like the OxiClean tax filing post, stay consistent with your brand voice and messaging. Make sure that you know who you are and who your audience is so that you're staying consistent with what they want to hear and what you want them to hear from you. So I wanted to talk about the moving on from there now that we know what to post and what sort of things we should be looking at to post. There is sort of a splintering happening in the social media world between the artistic side and sort of the business and data side. So a few years ago, these social media networks decided that they would like to make money. So they made it increasingly difficult for brands to reach their audience in a purely organic way. So we started to see a dip in how many brand messages would be coming through, for instance, your Facebook feed. Excuse me. Your Facebook feed, and an increase in the amount of paid advertising that we're starting to see. So it's a fact that really only about 10% of your social media community will see your posts organically. So a brand like Dunkin' Donuts, even though they have 13 million likes on their page, only about 1.3 million of those will see when they post. And 1.3 million does sound like a lot, and boohoo for them, but they worked hard to get those 13 million page likes, and they would really like to send their message out to everybody. So how do we reach them? We reach them through social media advertising. So really, nowadays, if you don't have a social media advertising plan to go along with your organic posting plan, your social media strategy is incomplete. So here you have promoted posts, which is essentially taking the content that you're already posting on your social media page and boosting it so that your audience, your entire audience, plus people who haven't interacted with your page yet, are seeing your content and liking it and interacting with it that way. And it's what we call native advertising, so it looks like just an organic post, but obviously it has the sponsored moniker on it. So every social media platform, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, all have these kind of sponsored and promoted posts. On the middle there, we also see sidebar ads. So these are ones that are more kind of traditional advertising, and it's something that is less effective, but when you do see somebody's ad on the side or their brand on the sidebar and then you see them in the promoted posts section, just that frequency makes both ad formats more effective. So again, integrating both of them is fantastic. And on the far right, we see some kind of the newest version of social media advertising that's just come out in the past month or two, where you have lead ads. So Facebook specifically is working on putting out ads that are lead capture forms. So you can have somebody who they want to get more information or they want to sign up for your email newsletter or things like that. They can do it right in the feed of your social media, of their social media feed. So they don't have to click through to the site. They don't have to do anything extra. Facebook already has everything filled out for you, so you can get to the lead faster. And if you have a CRM system like Salesforce or Marketo or anything like that, this lead system integrates with it perfectly. So what are we looking for now that we have kind of a strategy? What are we looking for in terms of key performance indicators for social media? You're looking for reach, interaction, and action. So reach meaning quality and quantity of your followers. How big is your social network, and how many people do you reach when you try to reach them? From interaction, we're looking at retweets, shares, comments, likes, referral traffic to your website, any kind of, now that you have the reach, what kind of interaction are you getting? So, and this is really indicative of how good of a quality your network is. So you might have 13 million likes like Dunkin' Donuts, but if you're getting an average of 2 to 3 likes or shares per post, you don't have a very quality network, and you need to go out and try to find people who are going to interact and share your brand message. And then from there, we want action. We want leads and calls and subscribers and sales and all of those really good things. But without the middle part, which a lot of people tend to forget, we like to have a lot of reach and reach a lot of people, and then we want action. But without that middle part, the action is never going to happen. So these things can be tracked with things like Facebook Insights if you have access to a dashboard like that, and then it can also connect very easily to any kind of analytics package that you might have on your website, like Google Analytics or Omniture or ComScore, anything like that. So key takeaways. You've made it essentially to the end of my presentation. Congratulations. So key takeaways. First of all, choose the social media platform that best meets your business and audience style. So again, we want to, if we're a bike shop, we want to show people on Instagram being out in the world and using their bikes. Number 2, have an engaging organic posting strategy using the 3 C's. So post good content. If you're just posting sales, people aren't going to want to share them as much. They don't go on to social media to learn about businesses sales. They want to have cool content that they can share with their own personal network. And number 3, finding a new audience through effective social media advertising campaigns. So again, know who your audience is and use the tools that are at your disposal with all this personal information that we have to go out and find new people. And when you combine all of these things, you really do have a very effective social media campaign. So thank you very much for listening and hopefully paying attention and learning something. If you have any questions, now would be a perfect time.
Great, thank you, AJ. We actually do have some questions that we received throughout the broadcast. You may have touched on some of the answers, but let me go ahead and run these by you anyway, just for the sake of the audience here. Number 1, we already hired a person to manage our social media. What can you offer that will add to what we're doing now?
Well, the great thing about the LA Times and working with us is that we've we have a lot of social media talent that has been working at agencies across the U.S. So we can usually help to supplement or help to further the education of who you have on your team. So we work with a lot of businesses who have 2 or 3 person social media teams, but we consult with them, or if they're not comfortable running the paid social media side, we can handle that for them. But a lot of people, business owners, it's more of a time thing. So you want your social media expert who's in-house to be handling the day-to-day things. So if there is something crazy that happens in the store, like I had one client who had a family of ducks just walk into the store. We can't be there to interact and share that. So it's great to have a person on site doing that. But if you want to have somebody who is great at strategy and running things to help grow the business that way, we are a good supplement.
Awesome. We have another question that came in a little bit earlier. How many people make their buying decisions based on a Facebook or Pinterest post?
You know, the funny thing is that people don't really realize that social media is extremely high up in the funnel. So there are a great number of people who may make buying decisions, but it's not the most recent buying decision. So getting a little bit technical, in your analytics, specifically Google Analytics is the one that most people are familiar with, you can see an attribution funnel, meaning how many times did they interact with your brand before they converted or made a purchase or called you. And I would say that 90% of the time, one of the first or second interactions with a website or a brand come on social media. So they might not see a post on social media and immediately call you, but it may take a few weeks, it may take a month, but that's where they first interacted with you. So you can't ignore that that's where they first saw your message and they first heard about you.
Great. We have another question, and we are conscious of the time, so this may be our last one. However, we'll let you know at the end of the broadcast how to reach and submit more questions if you have any. How can I monetize my activities on social media? Second part, do I need to buy ads, or will my postings be enough?
So that was something that I covered in the talk, but I think that it really is important to make sure that you're doing some tracking on your end, not just looking at the raw numbers. So again, it was about the quality of your audience. So if you're doing a lot of organic posting, that's fantastic, but you have to go in and look at how many people are seeing it. Are they interacting with it? Once they interact with the post, are they doing anything on my website? So having some knowledge of analytics or having somebody on your team who has knowledge of analytics is really, really important to be able to prove ROI on social media. So like I said, in today's social media world, you really do have to have some sort of paid social media advertising strategy along with your organic strategy if you want to use it as a platform to grow your business. Now, if you want to use social media as purely a brand hub where people have already liked your business and you just want to keep in touch with them, that's fine, and you can do it that way. But because the audience is so vast and so engaged, I would say that it's a mistake to ignore using the promoted posts and such to grow your audience base as well.
Excellent. Thank you, AJ. And I'd like to thank you, everyone, for attending today's webinar. If you have any other questions, please feel free to email ray.arroyo@latimes.com, spelled out ray.arroyo@latimes.com. And once you leave today's webinar, you'll receive a survey on the presentation, and we would certainly appreciate if you would complete that or provide some feedback, and your responses will be noted for our next webinar session. Well, you'll also receive a follow-up email with a link to view a recording of today's webinar. So perchance you've missed any part, you'll get an opportunity to kind of review the recording. On behalf of our presenter, Anthony Judah, thank you for joining us today. And on behalf of the LA Times Media Group, we'd like to wish you a great rest of the day. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Thank you very much.